Royalty. I'm prompted to talk about this because yesterday evening, Queen Elizabeth II of England and Great Britain died at the age of 96, the longest serving British monarch in history, after a very rich and duty-filled and warm and effective rule. And obviously almost everyone mourns her going and feels that a chapter has been closed and that a beloved older relative, so to speak, has gone. So this prompted me to think about my feelings about royalty over my life. I've never really questioned the value of the British having a royal family. I suppose this was instilled into me at school when, particularly as I began to learn British history, it would have been empty without the kings and queens about whom we learnt. And likewise our literature, in particular Shakespeare, would have been far poorer without their presence. There were bad kings and good kings and queens, and we learnt about them all. But we never really doubted that a constitutional monarchy, that is the kind where the ruler is under the constitution and under the crown and under the law, bounded but still very important, that was a very good form of political system. And gradually, as I started to look more widely at political systems in other countries, even in other parts of Europe, more recently, where almost all the kings and queens have disappeared, and where you have republics with sometimes a president and a prime minister, but effectively all power is located in one person, or even more dramatically in the United States, where the president, as we increasingly see, is almost all-powerful and can ride above the law and above everything else, and there isn't hardly any strong check. As I looked at all these systems, as I looked at Asia, in China and Japan and so on, I began to see that if you can divide supreme power, the power right at the top, as much as possible, that is a safeguard. There are essentially two sources of power in a nation state or a state. One is military force, and that is represented, for example, in Japan, traditionally for much of Japanese history, by the head of the army, the shogun. And so he was the ruler of the military and practical side. But then there is also the symbolic, ritual, affection, emotional side of a power, and that is just as important, and that can be held by someone else. In Japan again, it was the emperor in Kyoto who was the symbolic unifier of Japan, while the shogun in Edo or Tokyo was the military head, and that was continued. And some people trace the disasters of 20th century Japan to the fact that after the restoration of the emperor, the Meiji emperor, in about 1868, then Japan unified these things and the emperor became all-powerful, too powerful. And this seems also to be the case in other places where you've abolished the crown, thinking it old-fashioned or obstructionist or unfair that one family should inherit lovely houses and good wine cellars and the rest. But when you do that, and it seems in the short term, why not, and distribute their wealth more widely? We are a meritocratic civilization where you get your position through your individual virtue and individual intelligence and activities. Why should we have mixed into it this status-based system that just through your blood? It's nowhere else evident in our system. We don't even have a blood nobility. We have an aristocracy, which is different. So why in this one instance should we have a family that inherits all this? And so on the surface, that seems a reasonable argument. But when you consider the practical consequences and you look at what has happened in republic after republic, Italy, France, America, as I have mentioned, it doesn't lead to greater stability for the people, and it leads to overweening power among politicians who often in theory are elected, but the weaknesses of democracy means that they soon can forget their promises or whatever and get on and consolidate power. So if all power corrupts, as it tends to do, then having another set of power which is alongside, and this balance can be seen even now in traditions such as happened just before the Queen died, where the past Prime Minister came to tender his resignation and the new one took up her job, was asked. And the ceremonial and the ritual that is associated with that, with the opening of Parliament, with royal weddings and other things, seems not out of place. It feels a little strange, but it's not out of place in a civilization which prides itself on being the origins of modern democracy. And in terms of the good it does, in giving away prizes and encouraging people and visiting hospitals and the rest, and let alone holding together a vast commonwealth of nations now, and before that an empire, it seems cheap at the price, certainly a good investment for political cohesion and a balanced polity. So I wish the successor, Charles III, who was educated in my University of Cambridge, and I taught, or at least lectured to his younger brother Edward, and so royalty in some way I feel is associated with my life through the university, and even more so through the fact that King's College, where I am a fellow, was founded by a king, Henry VI, and its great chapel built by Henry VI, 7th and 8th, and the Queen was the patron of the college and even occasionally came to the carol service and for many years sent a telegram on our birthday, in other words, the Founders' Day feast. We'd read out a telegram of greetings from Queen Elizabeth. I don't know if Charles will continue that tradition, but it always gave one a slight a mixture of amused and a pleasant feeling. So continuity, tradition, the old order not changing too fast is something which was helpful in terms of the royal family, and that has been stressed again and again. Now we move into an unknown world. The world seems to be spinning faster and faster for various reasons, and every day some landmark is destroyed or disappeared. Even yesterday, my Cambridge University diaries, I heard, had been ceased for various reasons, and I've kept them right through my time. So we feel as if we are on shifting sands, and for many, one of the things that made it possible to stand amidst the shifting sands or other metaphors was the Queen with her long and patient reign. And so good luck, Charles, and thank you, Elizabeth.